My name is Chloe, and this is the Feed or Flow podcast, where you'll find authentic conversations on how to get your period back and restore your metabolism from years of disordered eating, low-calorie diets, and excessive exercise regimes. No trendy diets of celery juice and broccoli sprouts will be found here. Rather, my mission is to teach you balance and how the foods you've most likely cut out of your diet are the very ones that are essential for health. It's time we stop fearing food and embrace all that it can do for us. Food freedom, vivacious health, and a monthly menstrual cycle is possible, and I'm going to show you how to achieve this type of wellness without obsession.
Where women start to notice hormone imbalances, because it's not just for menopause. So I think that was a huge misconception that a lot of women have had is, hormone imbalance, I'm just going to worry about that later in life. And then you realize, oh no, I actually have to start paying attention to that now, especially with all the things that are working against hormones.
I think it's really common for us to, you said that it starts with intuition. And I think all of us, we innately, especially as women, I feel like we have a strong sense of intuition. But unfortunately, at least I see with my clients and the people I work with, a lot of that intuition's cut off and they're not connected with it at all. So for example, I know you don't know my story that much, but I had amenorrhea for 11 years. It didn't even faze me. I didn't even think about it. It was just like, I don't have a period. Okay, great. I don't have to spend money on tampons. That's literally where my thought process went. So I was very disconnected with, hey, there's a red flag here. Something is off.
Yeah. And I think that's just kind of our culture. It's just masking all the time. And then you realize, hey, masking can only get you so far.
Totally. So you said you see women with hormonal issues. Are you dealing with PCOS, endometriosis? What are the most common things that you see?
Probably all of the above. So infertility, miscarriage, prenatal, postnatal support, PCOS, endo, like you mentioned, and post-pill is huge too. So coming off of the pill, because a lot of women are realizing, hey, the pill isn't the solution for me. And that's totally okay and valid.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think a lot of women are having negative consequences to the pill. And I know for the girls that are listening who are struggling with amenorrhea, a lot of them have been very frustrated that they go to their gynecologist and they tell them hey, I haven't had a period for a couple of years. And the first thing that they want to do is just put them on birth control. Do you have a response to that situation there?
I do. I mean, I think the pill is not a one size fits all, and I think that tends to be the solution for every hormone imbalance under the sun. And it's just, to me, it's so surface level because I've seen how deep things actually go. And my approach is more personalized. So it's looking at the biochemistry, looking at the physiology, looking how that even ties into the emotional aspects, right? It's looking at the person as a whole, not just, hey, you have some sort of imbalance, here's a pill, and I'm going to give this to every other woman who's having some type of hormone issue. It's crazy.
Well, it's because it's like what you're saying, there's intuition that the body, the body speaks to us in these signs. And by just masking that, by taking the pill, is not doing you any service, because then you're not looking at hey, am I under eating? Hey, am I not getting enough nutrition? And those are the things that we really should be looking at. I want to know from you, with your clients, with all these hormonal issues and whichever one we have, amenorrhea, PCOS, endometriosis, what is the most common reason? Why are so many women having these hormonal issues in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, that's a loaded question because I think everyone sort of has different issues that are coming up. But, a lot of it has to do with just dietary influences early on in life. So a lot of that starts even before puberty. So women getting their periods earlier on, that can be from the amount of inflammation that they're eating from processed foods, the dairy industry, a lot of the steroids and things like that, estrogens that are in the meat industry, right? And this isn't saying that I'm against meat. This is saying that, you can get more quality products, right? More high quality meats and things like that. But all of that does have an impact early on. And then you put the pill on top of it, right? Because it's like once you're that age, reproductive age, you got your period. Okay, maybe it's time to start thinking about contraceptions. And so that's where the pill's introduced, and that just masks things further. And so if there was already underlying imbalance, some of that can also be genetic, right? But if there's already imbalance there and you do the pill on top of that, that's just going to make things worse. So by the time a woman comes off the pill, then she's realizing how much hormone imbalance she's had for probably years, if not like a decades and more.
Yeah, and what role do these hormones play in our health?
I feel like hormones are everything, but maybe it's just because that's the work I do. But they're really connected to so much because they're connected to your energy production and even things that we might not think about, like bone health, memory, clarity, focus, sex drive, right? And even metabolism, right? Metabolism as a whole. It's like that can't run without hormones being in harmony. So I don't know. I just think hormones are everything.
No, they are. And I'm in accordance with you 100%. And that's what was so shocking for me when I started diving into, okay, why do I have amenorrhea? Why is this bad? Why do I want to get my period back? It was shocking to know that like because of amenorrhea, like I have an increased risk for cardiovascular disease or brain issues, Alzheimer's, like those type of things. And it was so shocking to me to see the connection just between my sex hormones, how much estrogen and progesterone I have in my body, and how that would affect so many things. And like you mentioned, like with bone density, that's a huge thing, and why a lot of women in menopause start having osteoporosis because they don't have the proper balance of hormones. So I just wanted to ask that because I think a lot of people just, we know this, but they're in the dark and they don't understand that it's not just like a reproductive issue. It's going to be
So true.
affecting your whole body and your overall well-being.
I love that you mentioned that because I think there's a lot of emphasis on a woman's fertility and balancing your hormones. A part of that can be because you want to improve fertility. That's totally valid, but it's so much more than just fertility. Because I think as women, we need to also be okay with, hey, I want to raise the standard. I want to feel and look amazing. Why not?
No, 100%. I love that you said that because it's so true. It's not just for those who want to get pregnant. That can be a big push, like you said, but your body biologically is like designed to procreate. Like that's what your womanly physiology is designed to do. Whether that is your mission in life, that's besides the point. Your body wants to be in that state of balance, and you will feel optimal when you are ovulating normally and when you are having good balanced hormones. And so yes, for sure that's going to be impacting everything. So
Right.
you deal a lot with PCOS, which is something that I don't talk a lot about. I would love to get a good little definition and sort of your thoughts on this topic because a lot of girls are sitting here wondering, do I have amenorrhea or do I have PCOS? Which one is it? And how I go about my healing process, is that going to be a little bit different? Knowing obviously that every single person's different with healing, but just overall in general.
Yeah. So I mean, with PCOS, sometimes it's like the classic cysts on the ovaries, but not always. Sometimes that can also be gauged by, high testosterone production, high androgens that can come up, even on testing that I do that can come up. And insulin resistance is another thing that tends to correlate with PCOS. And so it's really looking at what type of PCOS it is, because there's different types of it. And I think through evaluation, that's the best way to really gauge like what kind of PCOS a woman might have and how she is bio-individually impacted.
I love it. You've mentioned this term multiple times, and I think it's so great. And we need to hear that more in the medical field, that term bio-individuality. And even just in the diet culture field, like I think people just need to understand more that what is one man's, medicine is another man's poison, and not everyone's going to be the same. And it's hard to keep that in mind when there's such a big cultural message of like, you need to exercise more or lose weight and all that. But for many women, they need to exercise less and they need to put on some healthy weight. And so it's hard. We always have to look at where we're at and what's going to bring our body into balance.
Exactly. Which, means like be careful with some of the advice you might be following out there, and I think Dr. Google can work against someone in that way because it's like, it's really easy. I get it. It's easy to kind of go down those rabbit holes. But how much of that you're reading really truly applies to you and what you really need?
So I want to talk about something that I see a lot, talking about, this whole diet culture messages that we hear. I hear a lot of just things from other women, even in my life and just in general, this demonization of carbohydrates, where it's like we have to limit, we have to, or completely eradicate, carbohydrates from our diet. We can never eat potatoes, we can't eat rice, those things like that. And even a lot of people who deal with like healing PCOS tend to really demonize the carbohydrates a lot. So being someone that, you work a lot with this, I would love to hear your thoughts on carbohydrates. Should we be running away from the carbs, or is that sort of false? And is there something else we need to discuss? Thanks for listening to this short clip from the Feed or Flow podcast. To listen to the rest of the show, head on over to your favorite podcast app like iTunes or Spotify. If your period has gone MIA, you're going to want to get her back. She's important for your health and misses you dearly. I've created a juicy online course designed to teach you everything I wish I knew about getting my period back, restoring my metabolism, and cultivating a healthy, nourishing relationship with food. The Get Your Flow On course is designed to empower and inspire you to achieve full recovery. Head on over to www.flowwithchlo.com to sign up.